I must admit, I think that it's early, but I would say by the form right now, seeing the teams, it's Bayern to lose now.
Hi and welcome to the Fußball channel. I'm your host Markus and as always joined by Jan Fjørtoft. We had a top spiel. We had Leverkusen against Bayern Munich at the Allianz Arena. We had goals galore as the likes of a Dortmund, RB Leipzig and Hoffenheim Werder Bremen all serving goals, comeback wins and what have you. The Bundesliga that never fails to deliver. And you had an eye at the Bundesliga. You also had an eye at the Premier League, obviously working in the studio this weekend. How was it? And being home, I guess, as well.
Yeah, I've been home and doing the Premier League and every other game in the world. That's the good thing about when you are in the studio. You come in like 10 o'clock on a Saturday, prepare for the show. I was there with Nils Johan Semb, who used to be the Norwegian national coach that I've known for
last time we were in a tournament under him.
Exactly, 2000 European Championship. We beat Spain 1-0. And Stefan Ivers in the goal, as a lot of side orders here. No, but the good thing is that you follow every game, Marcus. And as you were saying, and you and me texted each other, you texted me saying Dortmund struggling, and we thought that this episode will be all about Dortmund. They came back in their local derby against Bochum. We'll talk more about that later. And I follow everything, and I follow my old clubs. I follow your old clubs. I saw Air beat Greenock Morton. That was the Markus Fjørtoft derby because you played for both. That's what they call it. Yeah, and Air on their way up. And talking about Scottish League, we know that this weekend there's going to be a lot of Champions League games. Bayern going to play Aston Villa. That is the 1982 Champions League final, European Cup final that time. Aston Villa winning against mighty Bayern. But Dortmund against Celtic, they are flying. They're not conceding goals. They're just winning for fun. That's not going to be an easy game for them, Marcus.
No, not at all. And having been roommates with a Celtic fan for 3 years, I'd count myself as kind of like an indirect fan as such. And I would love that matchup between two teams with some of the best fan bases in the world. And from one big clash to another, it was obviously that the top spiel at the weekend as Bayern Munich hosted Leverkusen. And going into the game, it was defining pretty early on in the season as to where these teams stood. On one hand, you had Bayern Munich who'd convinced so much, but to no fault of their own, but they played certain strengths of opposition, which experts, so to speak, deemed not worthy enough of seeing enough of a benchmark. So them playing the first big team of the season. By Leverkusen, on the other hand, bit of a shaky start to the season, delivered in spells, so to speak, but not been as convincing defensively. And with that in mind, that shaped, I guess, the overall shape of the game in many ways, because you had a Leverkusen team that went very cautiously into the game. Bayern dominated possession, and it ended up 1-1 with two fantastic goals. How did you see the game, and how did you see their different approaches going into it? Because it was pretty interesting to see from a Kompany and a Alonso perspective.
Well, yes, you could say in a tabloid way, it was the first candidate playing the last candidate, meaning that Alonso was the first candidate they had. They wanted him to take the Bayern Munich job. Of course, he played there before. Well, he's played for Real Madrid and Liverpool as well. So he got a portfolio of clubs. Then companies coming in. I was skeptical, Marcus. I was clear on that. I was skeptical because I was not sure. I was sure that his way of thinking, his way of playing is much easier with great players. And mind you, they have great players. I was just a bit worried what will happen if he won't win football games. And this was, by all means, his first test against Alonso at home against Leverkusen. They go 1-0 down, but still they come back, Marcus. And I must say, so far, Vincent Kompany, he hasn't had one step wrong. I mean, the way they're playing, there was a Gnabry chance, a big chance, hit the post twice. So first the post, so the bar. And as you were saying, two great goals. I think that it helped Leverkusen, absolutely, that they go 1-0 up. Andrich, who we remember last season, had all these kind of goals outside the box, which was more or less the weapon for Leverkusen in this game. And then you had Bayern, who kind of went into this game, then answering 8 minutes later with Pavlovic. You know, Markus, Radecki is a great goalkeeper, and he got his valuable part of their winning the championship. But when he first came to that position, when he came up there with his hand, I'm not saying that it's a big mistake, but I think that Radecki, as every other goalkeeper, he will be very self-critical that maybe he should have got that one. But 1-1, it's I'm not saying it's a fair result, because I think Bayern should have won the game, but I think it's very important for Leverkusen. And I think that you saw that a part of the strategy of Alonso losing points, not in the top form. And I've seen Bayern, what they're doing to get Bayern 3, Leverkusen 0. That will have kind of killed it off a bit now in the beginning. So I think Alonso will be very happy taking a point at Allianz Arena.
Football is a funny game because it is about narratives, right? In many ways, if Bayern had won that, if they'd capitalized on their chances, Gnabry hitting the post and the crossbar in quick succession there, 4 minutes into the second half, Bayern win, you would have thought, well, Alonso and his approach going into the game, what is this about? It's too defensive. It's too cautious in nature. They didn't really give it a go and compare it to last season when it was a lot more free flowing. They were a lot quicker on the break and what have you. But then it ends 1-1. And I guess then so from a Leverkusen side, the analysis being, well, and Alonso said this after the game, Xhaka said it after the game, we if you told us if we could get a point from this, we would be more than happy to. Bear in mind, you're going to Allianz Arena, the toughest place to go to play in Germany. If you're conceding on average 3 goals a game, which was kind of the average number Leverkusen went into it, well, then you have to do something. And I think if I'm going to take Leverkusen's side on this, in terms of defending their performance, it's a bit the same as you would have said if when Arsenal go to City, in terms of, well, how should you go by it? Leverkusen saying, you know what, we have been leaking goals. We need to keep it tight. We've seen Bayern so far this season, very dynamic, extremely good at exploiting space, have rapid and dynamic players who will punish us by any means. So despite Leverkusen playing defensively, I think their expected G was 0.04. And by no means is XG the end all or be all, but it's an indicator. But they didn't let too many chances come through. Harry Kane failed to have a shot at all. So there is, I think you can defend Alonso and say that there was a plan to it in terms of how they approached it. Was it more cautious? Was it going for the win? No. But I think they gave Bayern also then as follows the respect perhaps they deserved going into this game. They've been brilliant this season, and Bayern will be remiss that they could not capitalize. But I think they will leave this game thinking, you know what? We played against Leverkusen, the defending champions. We dominated the ball. We should have won. We feel good under this system that we're playing, and the rest is consequence. And I still think that Bayern by no means hit a bump in that road. It was very much a continuation of where they've been.
I think when you see a game from a coaching perspective, it's all about how you develop, how the game was. It's of course a game of results. Of course, I mean that is a cliche. You're so talking about the Arsenal go to City and do what I have to do. Fair enough. We can have a lot of opinions on that. Maybe they could have done differently. But you saw with Arsenal now against Leicester as well. I mean, they dominated the game 2-2, and then in 94th minute, an own goal. I mean, there's so small margins in football, but I think that the Kompany will be very, very happy with this game, how his team is developing. There is speed in there I haven't seen for many years. They're running a lot. That is a bit under-communicated. So he would be very happy with this. And I think he also will be very happy with this being the first test, because you can win 6 whatever in Kiel. You can win 9-2 against Dinamo Zagreb, and sometimes you end up doing that. But this was the first step. Imagine he lost 1-0 and still he would be losing. But then there will be, but he's not by the good big games. Where is he? And all that kind of thing. So you kind of define a season at the beginning of the season, as Kompany has done. So I'm very impressed. He'll be very happy if he can now survive, and I say survive quote to quote, he will survive, but survive another good game this weekend. Then you have the international break. Then he can calm down a bit. He can look back at what he's done at Bayern. It's a very, very intense job to be Bayern manager. He's now, of course, playing in the Champions League. You can't do anything wrong against Aston Villa, but you can, because they have Unai Emery, who is an European specialist on this game. I watched their game against Ipswich for all Bayern fans. They looked a bit vulnerable. Delap scoring 2 goals for Leicester.
For Ipswich.
Sorry, for Ipswich, of course. And Ipswich haven't won this season. Fantastic atmosphere at Portman Road. But watch out, Watkins, Duran. There is a good team. There is some good players in that Aston Villa team. They also have a good bench. They get Ross Barkley on if they want him, and so on. Bailey come on, made a brilliant cross for Watkins' goal. So Bayern should be aware. But I mean, under the line, Markus, Kompany should be so happy at how he is adapted to Bayern. If you see, for example, Ten Hag has been at Manchester United still 3 years, and they're still talking about the project. If you talk about our own national coach, Solbakken, you say, we're still developing. And you see a Maresca coming in with 40, 50 players and managed to find an identity. You see what it tries to do, and you can see that by Kompany now. This is Bayern of old. This is Bayern of their best time. Will they be as successful? We don't know. It's a long season. And you need that first bump, Markus, and Kompany need to be under pressure. Let's see how we react that. But for every game like this, what it did against Alonso, what it did against Leverkusen this time, he strengthened his position in the Bayern hierarchy. And that is maybe one of the most important things for any Bayern coach.
Yeah, and you did pinpoint that in terms of fitting in the overall Bayern hierarchy. And he's proving that game by game. And yes, he has to prove that against Villa, but he also has to prove that in the next league game as well, because that is against the second place in the Bundesliga. It is our beloved Eintracht Frankfurt. They play Eintracht Frankfurt away. And I'd argue from an entertainment standpoint, I think that game will be better than the one we saw at the weekend, because I think you will see an Eintracht and under Topmüller who are very high in confidence. They play at home. Have a very good track record against Bayern Munich as well. I think it will be a brilliant game because Eintracht Frankfurt are on fire. They have 4 straight league win games. They have the Bundesliga top scorer in Umar Marmoush. Ekitike was out. He'll be by all accounts back. There's a young, a hungry squad in there. Yeah, I think we'll be a proper good matchup, and obviously them at the weekend beating Holstein Kiel. Yes, Holstein Kiel. Who gave Eintracht a fight. It was 1-0, 1-1, 2-1, 2-2. But then you had the brilliance of Omar Mamouche, 2 goals he has 9 goal contributions in total this season, 6 goals, 3 assists in 5 Bundesliga seasons. And just a reminder that they signed him on a free from Wolfsburg as well. So yeah, what is there to say about Eintracht, Dad? Because it is brilliant seeing them up there where we, we haven't been blessed with that during your time. They weren't top, so to speak, but what they're building there under Krusher and under Topmüller now getting going, it's pretty remarkable to see.
I know you are not only the host, you're of course also the editor. That's why I know we're going to be very populistic, and I will tell you my stats against Bayern Munich as Eintracht Frankfurt player. First game I played against Bayern was away from home. We lost 3-1. I scored a goal. Then we played the home game. We lost 3-2, I think. We lost at least. And I missed the penalty. And then we beat them 2-1 away from home. Jan Fjørtoft against Oliver Kahn. I chipped the ball over him. He was rolling back in the net. So I got a great stat against Bayern, Markus.
It's a pretty funny goal because it's like you've weighted it just about heavy enough, so to speak.
Yeah, it was very gefühlsvoll. There was a lot of feeling in that, but that's what you do. That's what you're finishing. I loved my lob, so I don't know if you have the possibility to get that into this.
Touch the link because of copyright stuff. We'll touch the link.
Touch the link and get it in there. But as you were saying, that's why I was reminded of that, because Bayern got a good record against them. They were winning the final. There are finals round. There are 5-0s there. When well, I guess it was Kovac who was fired after that, the former coach of Eintracht Frankfurt. So yes, and as you were saying, it's going to be very good to see this game, because the way Frankfurt are playing at the moment, 3 strikers who scoring for fun, a team that has kind of delivered on the big expectation and a bit criticism that Dino Topmüller had before the season. I remember I was down there, and I remind you of the story again. I came to the training. I was allowed to see their session, and he said, "Oh, could you play center half? Last season we would have asked you if you could play up front, but I do have strikers now up front," and he certainly has. And as you were saying, Marcus, just shows you the fantastic job Eintracht Frankfurt was doing at the moment, getting young players in, getting them nearly for free. We know Kolo Muani came for free. They sold him for 95 million euros. We have Pacho, who came for 10, and they sold him for 45. And now they have Marmouche and what have you. So Eintracht is a great time to be an Eintracht fan. It's also, Marcus, if I may say, if you see the Bundesliga now, and also if you see the Premier League, the 2 leagues that we follow closely, how dependent you are on players scoring goals. You see Leipzig, after had a bit game off in the last round, came back because they have so many potential match winners running around. And you were mentioning Dortmund, exactly the same. You have the strikers, you have the Guirassy, you have the Adeyemi, you have the Xavi, you have the Šeškos of this world. And
true.
I mean, I feel bad for the clubs who don't have a number 9 or a striker at the moment, or goal scorers.
No, but exactly. And to your point, Eintracht have that in plenty. And when you have an Eketike and Marmouche, who are 2 of the most exciting forwards in Europe now, Eketike can play. They bring in Matanovic. Matanovic brought in a few years ago, 194 for American audience, 6'4", 6'5", big Croatian striker, went on loan, did really well at Karlsruhe in the Zweite Bundesliga, scored Eintracht's new number 9. Look at the overall profile for those who aren't as familiar with the Eintracht Frankfurt team. Look at the profile of the team that played against Holstein Kiel. And yes, you'll have some more experienced players, but they didn't start. Mario Götze came off the bench, Dahoud came off the bench, Skiri came off the bench. Then you have a young Hugo Larsson, you have a Chaibi, you have a Bimbe, you have Tiatu came off. I mean, you have, and the goalkeeper, obviously, Santos. And we'll see now when Trapp is ready for this weekend whether he'll be back playing. More likely he will, because he's also the team's captain as well. Kshan Öztürk coming off. It's one of the most exciting teams, I'd say, in Europe, and especially when it comes to player profiles. And and all credit to the Eintracht Frankfurt management team that you know well. There is a deliberate recruitment to it. Kolo Muani also picked up on a free, sold for 100 million euros. If Eketike and Marmouche continue this at this rate, obviously they'll find themselves at bigger clubs. And that is part of Eintracht Frankfurt's model, as such.
Exactly. And I realized that you went up 5 million euro now on Muani. I said 95, but let's say it's in the middle somewhere. We are business people.
You're probably right.
Yeah, but there are 2 things that need to be said as we're landing the Holstein Kiel Frankfurt game. Frankfurt were 1-0 up, Marmouche. I'm just saying that because it's not only do they have players who score goals, they have players who score the important goals. Then Holstein Kiel comes back to 2-2, and then Marmouche make 3-2. I mean, players like that are so valuable. Yeah. Having said that, the Holstein Kiel goalkeeper didn't have his best day. I would say 3 of the goals he didn't look well, but you take advantage of it. You go there. But Frankfurt used to be a hard place to go to, places like this. Now they're getting the points. Now they are the challenger. Now they are up there among the best. So it's great time to be an Eintracht fan.
It truly is. And long may it continue as they play Besiktas on Thursday as well. As for the rest of the games, Dad, there was goals galore, and we'll bundle them together. A couple of comeback wins. One being Bochum, who led 2-0 away to Dortmund. I did text you. I said, Dad, we have to make a special on Dortmund. What is going wrong at Dortmund? Do I think that we will record that episode in the near future? Yes, I do. Yeah. Because I think it's still, by no means is Dortmund's comeback win against Bochum a sort of declaration of ultimate health, so to speak, within that organization. and also Werder Bremen turning around a 3-0 deficit to Hoffenheim, winning 4-3, and the Dane Jens Stage, however you want to pronounce it, with a hat-trick. Any
and I
thoughts
think, Marcus,
on those games?
yeah, well, I will Dortmund. I mean, you said it, that they will be happy that they're winning, but it's just like, okay, are you stumbling on somehow? And we're talking about Kompany losing 2 points at home, will be happy with the game, how it was played. Şahin will be happy, but still worried about that situation. What is interesting in Hoffenheim, that is a one to be aware of. Remember, they kicked out some people. They kicked out my friend, Alex Rosen, who had done a fantastic job there, been there for ages. He's out there. They lost 3 Bundesliga games in a row. No, Matarazzo, you remember, he was flirting with a USA job, didn't get it. Of course, that went to Pochettino. Now they lost 3 in a row. There are speculations that thing can happen there. So my guess is he will get another game this weekend, and international break is the time for every decision. The one who is most linked to that, I mean, all available coaches, but David Wagner, who got fired at Norwich because they didn't manage to go up. He is said could be a candidate there. So I think Materazzi got one more game to save himself. It's a club that is a bit in a turmoil. It's a small club in terms of a small city, a very small city. I would say more a village. But with SAP, they have had a great company who follow them. No, Alex Rosen is out. The owner is not that involved as he used to be. So bad times for Hoffenheim, being 3-0 up, and then you end up losing 4-3. I mean, that is second Bundesliga kind of result. If you go down there, you saw Köln, was it 3-0 they were up, and then ended up 4-4.
Yeah, against Karlsruhe. The Zweite Bundesliga warrants an episode altogether, because some of the results there are crazy.
It's just unbelievable. It's just crazy all the time. And you have teams, you have big teams like Hamburg, Hertha
Berlin,
Köln, and then you lose against the Elversberg and a lot of clubs. So now, a lot of goals, a lot of goal scorers, and I love that the teams who have kind of invested in their scoring players. I mean, they are valued. As was I just jumped forward and back now, Marcus, because I was into Premier League. When I see teams, when you see Tottenham coming to Old Trafford, we said before the game, they have set up a team to win this game. They didn't come there to get a result. They came there to win. They got Timo Werner in there. 2 big chances, as he always does. Kulusevski, oh man, Marcus, he was man of the match for me and a lot of others. And so I love it when people get rewarded when they risk. Having said that, you do understand teams, as you were talking about Leverkusen, as you were talking with Arsenal with a one man down at City and so on. You have to accept sometimes you have to do what you have to do.
Exactly. And rewarding, talking about investing in strikers, one who they invested in, haven't got the returns they wanted, but who did deliver in this moment was Švankara, the Czech. He scored late on for Gladbach as they won their first home game of since February, actually, against Union Berlin, who thus far had been undefeated. It was been 217 days since Gladbach had won at home. A vital win for them. Worth mentioning that St. Pauli beat Freiburg. St. Pauli, bear in mind, who were at the very top of the table, or top 3 at the very least, with 9 points, lost 3-0 at home. Missed the penalty when they were down 1-0 to St. Pauli, and lethally so. St. Pauli took advantage of their opportunities. Elias Saad, the man of the match, with 2 goals. We also had Heidenheim following back-to-back defeats, beating Mainz 2-0. You had our Norwegian Hanke Olsen. He got sent off.
Yeah.
So did Dorsch, so Hanke Olsen got sent off early. Worth mentioning also that Hoffenheim, when they were 3-0 up, did get a man sent off, and it totally crumbled after that. Leipzig finally got their attacking trio, so to speak, firing on all cylinders. Šeško 2 goals, Xavi Simons with a goal, Openda with a goal. It really came into full effect for them against a struggling Augsburg, who there were some expectations to. Bearing in mind, that we have to be careful. The same with Union Berlin when they got Europe, and then you as a club, you look up and say, what's the next step? And Augsburg has always been, well, keep our spot, keep our spot. This season was probably a case of, okay, we're taking the next step. And now they suddenly find themselves back fighting relegation as has been. And then the last game, obviously, Wolfsburg against Stuttgart, 2-2, Undav's late equalizer. The stage is yours.
Now, I just see every time as we are landing now, you test me always because you always leave one game out. And I think that you try to test me and which game that is.
That's why you and I work so well together.
I do know it's Wolfsburg Stuttgart, and Stuttgart equalized with Undav again, having a striker, 2-2,
striker.
90 plus 2. So that was important game for them as well, for Stuttgart. But it's funny that the German Bundesliga now start having, I mean, St. Pauli winning 3-0. I mean, where did that come from? And it's quite interesting to see when we compare the two leagues, you see the newly promoted team in the Premier League, they haven't won yet. Leicester, Southampton and Ipswich, they're getting closer. Ipswich now 4 in a row, but St. Pauli then go over there, and I just saw you go to Freiburg. Is a difficult place to go, as every away game is more or less. But Freiburg been a bit confident, just a new coach and all that, winning 3-0. Where did that come from? And I think that's brilliant. I think that's what you get in the Bundesliga. It's when you see the result as well. There's a lot of goals. It's a lot of like we were talking about the goal scorers, different goal scorers turning up and all those kind of things. And so there's a lot of to talk about. And as the good thing about Bayern not winning against Leverkusen, I mean, we're back. I must admit, I think that it's early. But I would say by the form right now, seeing the teams, it's Bayern to lose now. I'm not saying the championship, but it's Bayern to lose the kind of the Führung, the flow, the self-confidence. Because when you see that team, there are goals everywhere. Gnabry looks like the Gnabry we know. You have the Musiala in there. You have different players. Paulinho, Markus, who they finally got after 1 year. He's sitting on the bench.
Goretzka, and all credit to Pavlovic for that.
Yeah,
so young and with so full of confidence and the way he carries himself. But it's a funny game, huh? Because that was what we used, that they couldn't get their 6.
But I think that that's also one of the lessons Bayern have learned. I mean, that is a part of the analysis after last season. There were some players who were in there because they were who they were. And if it looks like Kompany has kind of made that into them, I don't care how much you cost. I don't care how many caps you have for Germany, type Goretzka or Paulinho. Kimmich, you can play there. I give you my trust now. You are my leader. So everybody else, listen, he is the leader. I think that is a part of the quite, I think, exact analysis of last season. Because Bayern didn't do that last season. They do it now. And Mailand let it continue because Bayern at this form are so enjoyable to watch. And then we're back where we were the last 11 years before the Leverkusen. But we just hope it's not decided before Christmas and all those kind of things. Because as you see now, Markus, yes, I see Leipzig came back. Dortmund don't look like a main title challenger. There's nothing, hopefully I'm wrong. So it's still going to be Leverkusen. And that's why Leverkusen will think that was a good point at Allianz. Let's win now the home game or the game now before we going into the international break. And may our players survive the international break. We know all about that with Martin Ødegaard getting injured against Austria for Norway. So there's a lot of things. But Marcus, only thing we can do is to analyze what we do see. And we do see a great Bayern team and a great job from Vincent Kompany so far this season.
We absolutely do. And with great Bayern teams, we see great performances in Europe. The same will account for Leverkusen. We want to see them do well in Europe and kind of promote how excellent the Bundesliga is and the players they have to show to. Plenty of games from the German teams, as mentioned in Europe this week. Stuttgart hosts Sparta Prague. Dortmund hosts Celtic. Leverkusen hosts AC Milan. Leipzig hosts Juventus. And Bayern go to Birmingham to play Aston Villa. Plenty there to choose from. But for now, Dad, it's always a pleasure to catch up, and auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen, and I'll be Bayern going there on Wednesday. I'm going to Villa Park on Sunday, because then we have Viaplay Premier Sunday. I'm there with Peter Schmeichel, with Freddie Ljungberg, Jaap Stam, bad, Jules Bridge, of course. So I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be a great football week, as every week, Markus. Auf Wiedersehen.